During combat, you're not supposed to hit the head of the opponent, but rather the point behind the head, through the head. So today's lesson revolves around the concept of not capping your effort. During combat, in martial arts, you are taught, or you ought to be taught, to not strike the head of the opponent, for example, but to strike the point behind the head, through the head. In a karate blow demonstration, one sure way of injuring your hand and not breaking the brick is to be unsure exactly how hard you're trying to strike it. The reason for that is that given enough force, that energy of the blow is dissipated through the brick. Whereas if you don't hit hard enough, the brick stops your hand, and then all of that energy has to be dissipated by the bones in your hand. You can also think of a boiled egg. If you've ever tried to peel a boiled egg, and first, before you peel it, breaking its shell, using your knuckles instead of, for example, banging it on the kitchen counter. You will have noticed that if you're not really sure how hard you're striking it, you might strike it not strongly enough, and then it will actually hurt your fingers. If you hit it hard enough, then the shell will crack, and that won't hurt at all. That actually reminds me of how that is also related to the pickup arts. When you approach a girl and you're extremely clear in your intention and you have absolutely no window of retreating, of changing your mind, of not being sure how much impetus you want to put behind the approach, then that goes through just fine and she will respond well. Whereas if she notices that you're uncertain as to whether you really want to approach or not, in other words, you're of two minds, yes, I want to approach, but on the other side, maybe I shouldn't, then all of a sudden the amount of resistance that she puts up goes up by a factor of 1,000. This is really the same in life. For doing anything difficult, if you're kind of unsure about it, the problem becomes very, very difficult, and you actually end up injuring yourself and not solving the problem. And that creates a confirmation bias where then your suspicions that it might not have gone well get confirmed by the fact that you get a negative feedback because your volition was not intense and sharp enough. I don't watch TV, I don't know what the name of the movie was, but there was a scene in which this Japanese samurai was teaching this wannabe American samurai, maybe you guys know what I'm talking about, how to concentrate on the sword. And they told him, I think the actor was Tom Cruise, but they told him only one mind. That is, don't at the same time worry about fighting and about not getting injured, or don't at the same time worry about fighting and worry about the girl, but just worry about just one thing. To be of only one mind means to have clear intent and to go for something without reservations. Now, what that means in business is the following. You see, everybody's got a limit, a line in the sand. That comes from a fantasy about the degree of difficulty that is likely contained within the problem. This assessment of the difficulty of the problem is made in a vacuum because evidently you've never done it before. When that assessment meets reality, and as often happens, it was an underestimation, two things can happen. Either you retreat, and that's what most people do, they find bullshit excuses. Or you enlarge your conviction. You stretch your risk tolerance. Whether you do the first or the second really determines the types of things that you're going to be able to do. Now, there is a weakness inside each person. That is really the same last-minute doubt when you're striking the brick. Are we really going to do this? That's why people take time to prepare before they strike. And that last-minute doubt is like, I don't want to suffer because of this. I want to do it, but I don't want my situation to get even worse. This actually is more of a problem if your comfort level is already high, because then you've got more to lose. Now you have to kill this voice, Because if you don't, it will destroy you. It's just like when two boxers are staring each other down when the match begins. It is said that victory or winning or losing a match happens before the first blow, because by the time the first blow happens, one of the people has already intimidated the other. And when you're intimidated, you go into fear mode and self-protection mode, and that disables your access to your best abilities. It's a kind of a dissonance internally. So the solution for that is to remove any cap to your investment. You erase the line in the sand. You make your comfort zone the whole universe. Now, psychologically, this means to hold a belief that without the achievement of your purpose, your life is not worth living. Think about that, because it's a ballsy statement to make, and I think most people won't be prepared to say that or to believe that. If you can convince yourself that you've got nothing to lose, and that automatically removes the tendency to want to preserve the status quo. By this point, pain really becomes irrelevant, because you think that you've got nothing to lose. And this is really the secret to harnessing superhuman amounts of strength, kind of evolutionary blind fury. Now, everybody caps their investment. Everybody's got a point where they said, well, this has been harder than I expected. I'm going to go this far and no further. Fuck it. And they freak out. They return to base, they abort the mission, they push the eject button, they're out of the picture. Now you are not going to be out of the picture. In fact, when you see that things are harder beyond your expectations, you should rejoice. That is the point at which you can imagine everybody else dropping out, because they will. Everyone else, when the going gets tough, is going to drop out. And what this means for you is that turns sort of statistical kind of success probability into something that's near certain, because once everybody else has dropped out, you remain the only person in the race. If this video has been of any use to you, please reshare it, subscribe, tattoo it on your vagina, whatever you need to do. Peace.